I liked being like the underestimated athlete. I really like showing women and reminding women that they can be as strong as I am. If you aim for perfection, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurkowski. Thanks so much for joining me today. All right, so today I'm with the Kettlebell Queen, aka Nichole Gallagher, kettlebell instructor and strength coach from Southwest Florida. So Nichole puts out a lot of great information and content on kettlebells and what it means to be a strong woman. So I was curious just to speak with her and hear about her story. She has such a deep passion for strength and teaching, and hearing about how she, in some ways, fell into coaching and saw it was what she wanted to commit her time to. So this was such an enjoyable talk, diving into the training world and talking strength with Nichole. I know you'll love it. All right, so with that, we're going to get right to it. If you like this episode, you want to show the podcast some love, then please rate and review it wherever you're listening. Don't forget to subscribe and catch all new episodes that are dropped every single week. All right, let's get to it. Thank you very much. Now let's get on with the show. Welcome to the show, everyone. Good to see you. Nichole Gallagher, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you taking the time. The Kettlebell Queen right here. So you are it. That is the name. So no, I appreciate you coming on. I followed your content for a while and the work you're doing, and you're putting out some great stuff. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I love telling my story, so I'm excited.
No doubt. I'm excited to hear it. So now you just were with Colleen and Rebecca doing some fun stuff, it seemed, right?
Yeah, coincidentally, I was with Rebecca. I had been conversing with Colleen for quite some time, and we both have admirations for each other. And I was invited to go to On It to work out with a friend who I've also met through Instagram. I was just like, well, I don't want to. I mean, even though I was invited there to work out, I was just like, I don't want to be by myself. So I invited Colleen, and I was like, I thought it would be a great time to kind of like connect with her. And she was all for it. She was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so we got a place together, and we spent 2.5 days together, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I'm excited I'm happy that I went. So yeah. It was fun.
No doubt. Yeah, it's such an energy. I mean, especially too as coaches, like I think oftentimes if you run a business and stuff, oftentimes you don't get to meet with these coaches that we follow or became friends with. So just having those day or couple days just to connect, it's a different type of energy, and just kind of play around with bells and just connect. And some of the content that you guys put together on it was absolutely beautiful. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool to feed off of energy from not just other coaches, but other women coaches, because I feel like women are not as common in the industry, or at least becoming more common now. But, strong women, at least, who like lift heavy and do all the things that I do. It's nice to be around that energy.
Yeah.
Empowering. Yeah, for sure.
It is. Well, it's a perfect set. Well, it is interesting. I've had the fortunate, chance to talk with Colleen Conlon. I've had Rebecca on a couple different times, and I've gotten so much in my time as a coach from just learning from other coaches, from seeing their experiences. And, most of them, honestly, like there's so many women that I've learned so much from, and seeing what you guys are doing, the content that you're putting on, and the communities that you're building, I think is so cool. So to kind of, kick off, Nichole, I'd love starting just with the origin story. Kind of everybody's got one of how they found their way into this. Like, how did you find yourself into the coaching world? Was it something you always wanted to do, or was it something that kind of just by happenstance happened?
I like to say it kind of happened by accident. Just a little bit of backstory. I started back 2013-ish. Maybe 2012 a little bit. But I started with just like wanting to get into fitness myself and just like do the whole personal transformation. I had went through a really bad breakup at that current moment, and I was really depressed like for a long time. And I was like, okay, something's got to give here. I can't just live my life depressed. So I literally just like Googled CrossFit near me. And this is back when CrossFit was pretty big and pop in, I guess you can say. And I found a Groupon offer for this CrossFit gym that I was close by, and I signed up. I went for like a trial. And then I loved it so much, and I saw such great results in the month that I was there, just a little bit of results that I did see. I was like, I'm this is it. And I loved the community of it. I loved working out with other people, just getting that like push from other people too. It was motivating. And because of the mindset that I was in, I couldn't bring myself to do it alone fully. Eventually it turned into, I like to say it turned into like an addiction. I quickly found myself like, as that was like my priority. I like prioritized that. And soon enough, it was like, I almost changed and didn't even recognize myself, but for the better, obviously. And it wasn't within a couple months that I was no longer depressed. I was no longer like, feeling bad for myself. I started to learn how to love myself. Obviously I had my coach who really helped like reinstill that in me. And then the community of people that I was working out with helped. And probably about 6 to 9 months or so did that. And then we transitioned to like a little bit of Olympic lifting, powerlifting, did that for maybe another half a year or so. And then found kettlebells. And once I found kettlebells, that was it. It was like, okay, this is
the hook, line, and sinker. Yeah.
And at that time, I had never even envisioned myself being a coach. I was just like, this is for me, and quickly, a couple of years later, I was like, okay, I found myself really good at it. And by accident, I started getting clients that would reach out to me because they saw I was doing kettlebells, and I was actually training a 13-year-old and her dad. And he was much older than me. So that was an eye-opening experience to me. I was like, whoa, like this man is coming to me to train him, and I'm younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so 100%.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And then I don't know, it was just like, that was the rebirth of me being a coach, I guess you can say. And then from there, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, because I saw shortly, like it helped him, and he was loving the kettlebell training I was giving him. His daughter was loving it. And I was like, okay, this is fun, and I can definitely do this, and I'm good at it. So this is what I'm going to go with. So it just turned into like something for me, and then something for everyone. So yeah, it was a cool experience. And then from there, it's just like, I started, kind of thinking about like a branding aspect of it. Like, how can I, make this a brand, and how can I get my income? And because I love it so much, and, they say, turn your passion into income. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And yeah, it was just like I said, it was just kind of like an accident, but now I'm like, I'm not going back.
Right. No, absolutely. I totally get. I mean, it's those experiences, a million are coming to my head right now. When you said like that first month, you felt that benefit right away, like when you just got in with CrossFit, like what was it? Was it something specific? Because like, was it more of like the mental thing that you kind of felt, or is it more of the physical? Was it a combination of both?
It was definitely more mental at first. I found myself not like, thinking about the breakup that I just went through. I found myself like kind of getting more happy in my day, and not like just crying, because like there would be days where I would just like cry all day, and as sad as that sounds, I was just like, I don't know, I was young, I was my first love experience, whatever. So more mental, that I realized, oh, like, okay, this is taking my mind off of things, this is like going in a good direction. And then like, I started even just losing a little bit of weight, and it wasn't a lot, but it was like, I'm starting to gain these better habits, and all these positive things started coming from it. So I was just like, yep, I'm just going to keep going. And it just kept going.
It's amazing, right? How many different things can change in such a short period of time. And then it's just that snowball effect where you're like, oh man, how much more can I possibly go, from there? What was it about kettlebells that really kind of, hit you? I mean, you did Olympic lifting, you did power. I mean, a lot of challenging things that a lot of people get into. What was it about the kettlebell and the specific kettlebell training that just kind of snapped at you?
Yeah, I think for me at first it was the physique. I started like gaining really dense muscle. Like when I was doing Olympic and powerlifting, I was getting strong, but not to knock like the physique of powerlifters and whatnot, but I didn't want to be like that bulky looking female. And I hate using the word bulky because I still think, that, yeah, whatever. I just hate using that word, but
Yeah.
I didn't want that physique per se. So went to kettlebells and I was like, okay, I started getting like really dense muscle. Um, Even I was losing even more weight, started gaining more muscle, and it was just a no-brainer for me in that moment. It was definitely a convenient thing. Like I noticed I was really good at it in a very short
Mhm.
time. And yeah, I think for me, it was just about preference initially.
Yeah, it is. It's something about those movements when you feel like you get it, and then all of a sudden, like you're good at it. There's almost like an inherent talent behind it. I kind of had
Yeah.
a similar thing. I came from like a baseball background where the details of movement are so important. Like just the way that you have your arm in just a different angle is the difference between a
Yeah.
smooth, solid swing, making contact. And it's kind of the same with kettlebells. All of a sudden you like, oh, that's how a swing's supposed to feel. And you just feel that benefit. It's like that little detail, like it almost felt like a sport of kind of getting into it than just
Yeah.
working out.
It literally became an addiction. Like it was the only thing I thought about. I started like it totally spiraled my life. Like I started getting into meal preps and like I found myself really disciplined on my food, and it just, like you said, it was a spiral effect. So I was just rolling with it. I was like, okay, these are all good things that are happening here. I'm just going to keep doing it. And
Mhm.
started getting a lot of muscle. I was really good at it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I still love to powerlift. Like when I was with Rebecca, it was like nice to be in that space again, because she kind of reminded me of like the technique stuff, and like 10 years you kind of forget some stuff. So it
Mhm.
was a nice reminder that like I really do still love to barbell snatch, and I do love all those things still. But I think for me, it's just the benefits in kettlebells versus the barbell, like the convenience, and just the versatility of the kettlebell. I think all in all.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to try these different modalities. It's kind of like people say that phrase, like, oh, do what's best for you. But if you've never done it before, you have no idea what the fuck that means. It's like
Right.
you need to try these different things. That's why, like, I always get a little bit kind of peeved when people start saying, oh, this is the best versus this is the best. I was like, look, I've been doing kettlebells for a long time. I love it. It's what I do, it's what I teach. However, I've seen incredible coaches. I've met some of my best friends that are Olympic lifters. They're power lifters. Like they go deep down those rabbit holes. It's kind of like what hits you, what connects with you. And sometimes you're like, why do you do this? I don't know. It kind of clicked. But in order to do that, to find that right avenue, try a bunch of different stuff. Like it's not only one app, or take a little break from it. Like I remember last year I did like 6 months of just straight barbell training, trying to go for a workshop and a certification. And I haven't done barbell work in forever. And I was like, oh, wow, there was a lot of deep intricacies of this I missed out on before. Then you get back into the group. But yeah, trying a bunch of different things out. I think it's so important.
Yeah, and I'm grateful because I think having that background in the barbell stuff really helped like the kettlebell stuff just kind of click even more,
Mhm.
because mechanics are very similar, even though obviously they're very different, they're still very similar. So it just like helped my knowledge, and I think being better in kettlebells. But I think there's other people who would say that if you start with kettlebells, they'll help you with barbells. Like when I was with Rebecca, she was saying like she started with kettlebells, but
Mhm.
then she is now more barbell stuff. So it was nice to hear that perspective too, because I was the opposite, obviously.
Yeah. I know. And Rebecca, oh my gosh, I mean, she's a world-class athlete right there in
She's
Olympic lifting and stuff. Yes. I mean, the time that girl puts into her craft is pretty crazy there. So you mentioned so the kettlebells, you said like just the physique aspect of it and the body frame that you were looking for, that kind of aligned with this. But at the same time, like, I mean, I've seen the work that you do and the bells that you play with. I mean, you're strong as shit. Like, did the strength, was that almost kind of like an added bonus of like, oh my gosh, this is getting me really strong too? Or was that something you were kind of seeking out when you got into kettlebell training as well?
No, that was like an added bonus. That was almost like I didn't know it was gonna make me that strong. It's just when I started getting that strong, I was like, oh, okay. Like, why would I go back to that?
Hmm.
So yeah, I like to say that kettlebells just like build that really dense muscle. Cause I personally, in my opinion, don't think I look as strong as I really am, but obviously I am. So I like that. I like being like the underestimated athlete. Like, oh, she doesn't look that strong, but then I can go snatch 80 pounds over my head with a kettlebell like it's nothing.
Right. My God, I'm laughing. I've had that so many times because I'm a small frame guy. I'm 160 pounds, and same type. I've had people look at me before, like, what weights are those? And it's like, yeah, I know I don't look that way. That happened last year. She's like, you don't look like you should lift that. I was like, oh, thanks. I guess I've heard it before. No, I
Right.
totally. Well, the physique aspect is an interesting topic, I think, because as coaches, I think we know the benefits of feeling strong, of getting better, and we're trying to kind of push that narrative more towards people and clients. But changing your body and like getting that body and looking the way that you want it to, I mean, that's a powerful thing. Like that's not something to shy away from. And I think in the industry, a lot of people are trying to get away from that narrative of like changing. It's not about the looks. It's about how you feel. But it's like, yeah, if somebody like has an image that they want to portray in the mirror and you can help them get there, like, yeah, like that's a motivation that I think you should leverage. And I think coaches should not shy away from that. Like, cause that's where a lot of people are like first thinking of. Maybe they're not thinking of the strength benefits or what else this could do for them. They just want to see somebody different in the mirror.
Yes, exactly. And I totally agree with that because like you take somebody who doesn't really know much, they're just like, I want big legs, I want, a nice upper body or a six pack or whatever. They don't think about the strength that in the functionality of the strength that you could have to use towards other things. But it's like, yeah, like the physique, I think is definitely the motivating factor at the forefront of everyone's brain, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's got to be a part of it. And it's something like, yeah, somebody wants to do that. Absolutely. Like make that a goal of it. And, Dr. Lisa, when she was on, talks about leveraging motivation. It's like whatever someone's motivated on, like, yeah, use that at the time and put in the other stuff that is going to benefit them as well.
Right.
But don't just throw that away. And, I think I've made that mistake before. I'm sure a million other people have as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, now I see like I'm not like now I'm not chasing a specific physique. I just want to be strong. But like
Right.
when I back in the day, it was definitely like I would see these people on Instagram. Like I would follow just like some random influencers that you may have heard of today that I admired because of their physique. And it was like, oh, I'm gonna have her abs, I'm gonna have her legs, you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely think that that's a factor, the main factor, at least in the beginning.
It is. It's No, it is. It's powerful. I totally understand it. So now getting into like your coaching world, because you said you had the 13-year-old with her dad, and that was a big change over. What was big about the change? Was it like, I can't put myself into the mind of like a 50-year-old man, and this was kind of a difference, or was it like he moved differently? What was kind of that kind of change like?
Well, for me, it was just like, I don't know. I think I was more shocked that he was seeking me to be his coach because like I had my coach who was still coaching and he didn't seek him to coach. So it was like, I don't know, maybe because it was his daughter that was with him and that's why he wanted me to coach him. I really don't know. But for me, it was just more of like at the time I'd only been in it for probably like close to 5 years. And I was like, it was kind of like okay, this is people actually want me to coach them. So that was like a learning curve because like I said, I didn't intend on being a coach. I just personally started it for me. And then when he seeked me out to be his coach, I was like, oh, okay. I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can coach. And it definitely taught me a lot. Like, as a coach, like I learned a lot of like, I made mistakes coaching him and like maybe giving him too many reps or something or too long of a workout or whatever it was. But in that moment, I learned from it. And it kept me I was always trying to be better than the previous session or always trying to come up with ways to make it fun. And because I knew for my personal training, I needed it to be fun first because I needed it to be something that I I looked forward to doing, not something that I was like, oh, okay. But I wanted it to be fun. And I don't know, I think he was the guy who, the father, he was a more of a Spartan race runner. So it was just like a eye-opening experience for me. I really don't know how to explain it. Like, it was more of like, okay, I can do this. Like, or like, I'm going to figure it out because I have to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just a learning experience.
Sure. Did you ever ask him like, hey, why did you hire me?
No, honestly, I
Yeah.
think maybe I was maybe just either didn't care about that response, or I was just like, didn't okay with whatever reason it was, but I knew that it was happening in the moment. So I didn't really, it
Sure.
didn't bother me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's always an interesting question too, because I've felt that as well. And, sometimes I think you put out just the energy of, hey, I want to learn more from this person. They just seem like they have, a good flow to be around. And it's like, if I can learn from them, sometimes I think that happens a lot with, when I was a young coach getting in, I was signing a lot of people up to train with me, not thinking I was doing like sales work, quote unquote. It's like, I just was talking to people, and then they're like, hey, how does this work? How do I work with you? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it's almost that like beginner luck, because you're just so excited about talking about this shit all day. And then people just get kind of drawn to it. So it's always interesting to see. I had a story I had an older woman, Helen. I've told this story before, of her goal was to open up the peanut butter jar. She was like 90 years old. And she couldn't eat breakfast anymore in the morning because she had arthritis in her hands, and she wanted to work out for that. And as a 24-year-old kid at the time, everything was about aesthetics. And like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just something you don't know, like when you're an ignorant young kid. And then sure enough, we worked together. 3 weeks later, she comes in with a peanut butter jar, puts it on my desk, and opens the jar in front of me.
Oh, wow.
And I still I get like choked up here talking about this story, because she had this look on her face like she was Usain Bolt, who just won an Olympic gold medal, like running. And it shows like everybody's got a different goal of what they're aspiring to do. Maybe this guy, he wanted to be around his daughter, maybe have some kinship of what they were doing.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just more a bonding moment for him too. You know what I mean? He wanted his daughter to, she was young, and he wanted her to just kind of like be active, because she was very sedentary, and she was in school, kids, she's a kid, right? I think he just wanted to get her into something that she enjoyed, and she enjoyed being with me. And I think once he saw that shortly after, it was like a no-brainer for him.
Yeah. So like your evolution then of coaching, like after this, and now you're like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And you're building up a brand from here. And now you've got a great following, especially on Instagram from here. Like, who do you work with now primarily as clients?
I would say mostly women. All my clients right now are women.
Okay.
But I would still work with men. Like, I don't have anything against working with men. I think just working with women more hits home for me, obviously, because I'm a woman, but I really like showing women and reminding women that they can be as strong as I am, and that I'm not any better than anyone else. I just maybe have more experience, or I started at a younger age, or whatever. But like, just because I can do something doesn't mean you can't do it too. And my goal for my students is to like outdo me, in a sense. Like, I want my students to be able to be stronger than me, because they don't have to go through all the learning curves and whatever that I had to, because now they have me, and I can just tell them like, hey, this is how it is, or this is how it isn't. Don't do this, do this. And my goal for them is to get them twice as strong as me in half the time. So yeah.
Oh, that's a hell of a journey right there. That's pretty awesome. So what's the like the main, like, is there specific struggles that you see kind of similar with everybody that's coming in? Is it like, I mean, because you do primarily, kettlebell training, are people already experienced in the work that you do, like with kettlebells, or it's kind of like mostly brand new people coming in?
I have a mixture. I have a woman who has a little bit of a Olympic lifting power training background. I have another woman who has no knowledge in fitness whatsoever, or previous knowledge. And then I have another woman who she was trying to do some self-educating and YouTube videos, Instagram, all that. And she found herself like, this is not working for me. I need to just hire a coach. And then I have another who's actually like RKC or Strong First, but she doesn't want to think about what she's going to do for the day. So she hired me to just give her a workout. So I think it's a very broad spectrum. And I like that though. I think a common thing between all of them though, if I had to say one common or two common things, it's like the understanding of the mind to muscle connection. Like I struggled with it in the beginning. Just for an example, I didn't know how to make that mind to muscle connection with my core. I didn't know how to engage my abs, all of that. And I thought I was the only one until I started getting more students. And I was like, oh, this is like a common thing. Like nobody really understands that. So you're kind of like on them like about it and reminding them about it. And so it's cool to see that I'm not the only one that struggled with it, that's a thing, you know what I mean? So I'm really big on teaching that.
Yeah, it was one of the things that really hit me right away when I started, studying more of hardstyle, training, is that strength is a skill, and it's not talked about still enough. And I think there's a lot of people who struggle to get started because they think everybody else knows something that they don't, like that I don't know this exercise or this. And like, do they just go through the motions? Is it like an engagement type thing? And it's like, all of a sudden, like you can learn these things like strength, like all of a sudden you start learning how to use your body and actually engage in it a little bit more. It's like, that's why I said, yeah, you can get a great workout in a short period of time. However, it's because you're really focusing in that time. It's not just, shorter because it's shorter. It's shorter because it's a lot more jam-packed into that short period of time.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about in the moment. I find that I'm giving these cues and my coaching style has shifted because of it. But, understanding all these cues in one moment at one specific time is not an easy concept. And I have to, like, my students remind me of that constantly because, they'll be like, oh, so much to think about, and I'm like, I know, like, just try to think about one thing at a time. Like I'll give them one cue to worry about for one set. And I'm like, okay, here's another cue for the second one. And then on 3 and 4, now you're going to work both of those cues. So that's kind of like teaching them to multitask while they're working out and thinking about more than just what they're doing, but what are they engaging and how can they make their body work as a unit, and how can they use the muscles necessary for that specific lift or whatever it may be, instead of just thinking about just doing it, right? Because it's one thing to do it, but it's another thing to strategically do it. And so that's been kind of exciting to see too.
Yeah. Do you think that people come in, they think that they need to have this perfect movement and perfect technique in order to do things right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say not fully, but I would definitely say that my students get frustrated themselves when they don't get the things that they're aiming for in that session. And that's where, I have to remind them, hey, don't compare yourself to anyone. And especially don't compare yourself to me because, I have a lot more years in it, but like, just worry about one thing at a time and just try to focus on not necessarily being perfect, but being better than your last rep or your last set. And just try to improve in that matter.
Yeah. It is it's funny in the kettlebell world, I've had some debates with people on this of like different technique. Cause everybody, like, especially coaches, like we could fight about anything for hours on different technique of someone's swing versus snatch. And I had an argument with one guy and I was just like, look, you're like, the debate that you're trying to do here of like perfect technique, it's hurting a lot more people than it's helping. It's like, because a lot of people who are not in this world or maybe are interested in getting in, but think that they have to have this like perfect technique down, and see someone like you or Denzel Allen, I always bring up because he's like my aesthetic role model in his movements. Like everything looks perfect and beautiful. Oz is the same. But it's like, no, as long as it's up to standard, like you can do it. Like, yeah, learn the swing, like learn how to snap the hips. It's not going to look perfect right away. And
Right.
I think as coaches, like one of the best things that we can do is just, we don't need to take it so seriously. Like just, yeah, pick up the bell, see how it feels, just kind of
Yeah.
start learning it. And then all of a sudden everything else starts, coming into play.
Yeah. And it just eventually you like, it takes that kind of aha moment of like, okay. And I try to remind my students of like what you should be feeling. And then it's like, are you feeling this? And if no, then just work on trying to feel that. And instead of making the move perfect, because you're never going to be perfect. And if you aim for perfection, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But you can aim to be better than your last set or than your other previous day or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm really big on reminding my students that like your only competition is yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I remember I learned a lot when I talked with Nick Winkleman on cueing, because we talk about like everybody learns in a different way, so you can give different cues. But the one thing we talked about is like when the person gets it and you visually see the difference of what you're in, like that's the celebration and a half. Like get that big exciting cheer, and then they're like, "Oh shit, that's it! Yeah, I want to get that again."
Yeah, I love those moments. It's like it's very rewarding, and I can't even explain how or why, but it's like I think the reason actually if I had to guess would be because like I was there and I get it. Like I get it. It's not easy to engage your abs. My coach can tell you and vouch for me that he used to tell me all the time, like, suck in your gut or engage your abs. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what are you talking
I know, I'm trying. What does that mean?
and then when it clicked, it's like, oh, okay. And then that clicks. And so now when I see that with my students, I'm like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to feel like. And they give me this like look, and it's like, you just clicked, something just clicked there. I know, I saw it. And they're like, yeah. Like, okay, now try to go for that again. Like feel that again.
Yeah, I know it's those breakthroughs. I had an old coach, Coach Ron, is an amazing hockey coach, and he would just talk about it's like the breakthrough's coming today. The breakthrough's coming, and he used to have kids. He would stay, and he would tell his parents like, "We need to stay because he's about to have a breakthrough." Because you see it, and then all right, now just pepper it in, pepper it in, pepper it in, and then you get it, and you see it all the time with people because it is like we say those cues like, yeah, engage this, engage that, and again, it always comes back to, that person in front of you might have no idea what the heck you're talking about. Like we can talk, me and you, we can have a great conversation and we can see different things, but brand new people that are getting in or people who are very early on, like, yeah, they're not going to get that right away. You got to be patient.
Yeah. It's definitely something you have to consistently like, I've found that I have had to consistently figure out different ways to make it click or figure out ways to keep reminding them of the same thing. So it doesn't seem, so I don't make them frustrated. Because like, if I say the same thing over and over again, they're just like, and I know that's how it was for me, like going to get frustrated because like, I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? But like, if I try to compare it to an experience or a situation, then that gives them a little kind of better understanding. And I think it allows them to not be so frustrated with themselves, because I've had incidences where my students get frustrated and they just want to give up. And I'm like, no, you're not going to give up, and stop getting frustrated, because I know what that feels like. I was there too. I get it, but you're not going to improve if you're just in emotions right now. So like put those aside. And let's work on how we can get this feeling to how you can feel what you're supposed to feel. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I learned that it seemed like I learned that a lot more when I started doing small groups when we had our studio. So it's like, now I do mostly online and programming with people now, but when we had our studio with like just small groups of giving the cue and then giving a little bit of like that anonymity, like let them work it out, figure it out and move on. You can do it individually as well, but I think especially in like the kettlebell world, like the community, like that small group aspect, if you're doing in person, can be so powerful for that.
Yeah. I think I definitely agree that group training is so powerful for somebody like a beginner and someone starting, because they need that encouragement. They need that, like, to see other people doing it. At least I did. I know when I started, I needed it. And so I definitely am a big fan for that purpose. But now I'm more of like, it could be a bad thing, because then you could find yourself comparing, and then that turns into a bad thing. So it goes, I guess you could have good and bad in both, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's individual. Well, you said like you were in a group for a while when you first got started and still didn't feel comfortable kind of doing things on your own. When did that shift? Was it like when you started getting more into like kettlebell training? Because now, do you train mostly on your own? Do you do it more like in a group or?
So I actually was when I started, I was working out with the classes, but I got fortunate enough to have my coach, his wife, and another woman that we were working out, actually two other women at the time, and then another man, I believe it was. And we kind of had like our own, I think once my coach realized that like I was like kind of talented in this stuff, he was like, okay, she can work out with us.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
Part of the club, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I was doing the classes, but also I had like a small group of people, including my coach that like was there to correct my form or form check me or spot me or whatever it was. And I was so focused on myself, I never even compared or anything. And actually I got a lot of inspiration from one of the women that we were training with. She had a previous a gymnast background. And I remember the first day I saw her walk on her hands back and forth the gym like it was her feet. And I was just like, I need to do that. I was not intimidated at all. I was just like, I need to be able to do that. So I'm going to practice. And now I can walk on my hands like she can.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool, but
Oh, that's cool. Because a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I could never do that. So you kind of went the other way.
yeah, I'm very much like when I have my mindset on something, I'm not going to stop. Like I was in the middle of lifting kettlebells and I would be flipping upside down trying to stand on my hands and just like anything I could. And like I'm sure I'm pissed off my training group a couple times because I wasn't focused or whatever, but I had so I was like, I don't care. I'm going to get this.
Hey, that just that deliberate daily practice, right? It's like, that's how I learned. Like, I remember I wanted to learn how to jump rope, like really jump rope, like a boxer. And just 10 minutes after every workout for like 6 months was just, there was it. 10 minutes, just hit I hit an alarm. And as soon as it was done, then I was done. But in that time, just playing around with different movements. And it's amazing what you can do by just putting a little bit of time into it every day.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely took me a couple of years to understand it because I also had one of those aha moments of like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel upside down, or oh, this is how my abs are supposed to feel. So it took a while, but yeah, it was I was determined, so I wasn't gonna stop until I got it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So with your coaching, I mean, since you started to now, I'm sure it's evolved, quite a bit in your styles or so. Like, how is your coaching? Like, what are some things that like maybe you did in the beginning that you've changed over, maybe wasn't working for you as well anymore, and kind of moved into how you coach now, kind of that evolution of coaching and training?
So I would say, how did it? I would say just honestly, I learned by mistake. Whether it was like giving somebody too heavy of a weight or moves that weren't necessarily practical. Yeah, I would say it was probably like the weight was the biggest thing for me because I always compared it to myself. And I was like, oh, I can do it, so they can do it.
Right.
But I had to understand that that's not the case. So that was a big eye-opening experience for me. So I had to kind of be like, start with a lighter weight than normal and then like feel it out. And that was like a learning curve to get over. As far as like anything else, I think it's just more of like technique, and just improving on form and stuff. You know what I mean? Because I look at old videos of myself now and I'm like, oh my goodness, what was he doing? But I think that's necessary to learn and to get better also. So technique for sure. And definitely like proper weights. I had an experience where actually I was coaching the gym that I was with my coach, and I was coaching one night and this student or member asked like, oh, what weight should I use? And I told him we did this workout this morning and we used half body weight. And he was like, okay, I can do half body weight, like whatever. So he went and did half body weight. And then the next day, my coach was like, his name was AJ. And my coach was like, you really messed AJ up. Like he is sore. And he said he can't come in for a couple days because he's so sore. And I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That was my fault. Even though I didn't program the workout, I told him, what weight to use because I used that weight and I thought it was okay. And so that was kind of like a moment for me, like, oh, you can't do that, Nichole. Like not everyone can.
Yeah, I think we've all learned that lesson from there. It's a hard lesson to learn. And, I think there's still such that narrative of the way to get stronger is progressive overload. Like you need to keep pushing the weights more and more. And I didn't really learn and really understand like using submaximal loads and how you still can develop strength and power with those lighter weights with volume till just like a few years ago. Like it was always, it still like didn't get into my mind until, working with my coach Brad and talking with guys like Tim Almond, who's, Tim's one of the craziest beasts in the world with snatching, and he's using like 50% of what he can do for weights. And, Derek Toshner, like these guys, they're using very submaximal loads to do it. I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And sure enough, a lot of people like they'll come back the next day and feel pretty good by using those.
Yeah, I think about it still to this day. And I'm like, I kind of like when my students ask me what weight to pick, it kind of flashes in my head and I have to be like, well, go with, think about what weight you want to finish with and then start with like maybe a bell or two size underneath that. And so I've kind of learned that, I have to go approach it in that scenario or in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like, especially with power work, like ballistics, like swings or snatches, like it's not, you might be able to move that weight, but how crisply and powerfully you can do it. Our good friend Antonio Squillante, who's a researcher in USC, Southern California, I think he's still doing this research of putting people on a force plate with different weights. And he had Brett Jones on there. He had Hunter Crine on there. Like he's had a lot of, people who are proficient in kettlebell work, and you're finding like the Goldilocks bell of what you can do. Like maybe you can swing a 48K or you can swing a 56K, but actually the 40K is where you're getting the most power production out of it. And it's that difference. So it's kind of finding what are those Goldilocks belt. It's not necessarily how much you can lift. It's where is that, and if it's too light, then you're not getting that same, weight. So it's kind of finding that certain amount. And they've done it a lot in Olympic lifting and barbell work, but now they're doing it more in the kettlebell world. So I'd be curious to see. I know Antonio's working hard on that research, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I think what I've learned too is like, what is the intention? Like, for that specific set or whatever, is the intention to have more power? Then, okay, you probably want to go, 25-30% of your body weight. But if it's, for pure strength, then like, I think in my opinion, just because of how I've been coached through the years, like, half body weight is like kind of like a flex. And so if you can get half body weight, like aim for half body weight. And if it feels good, then do it. Obviously, if it doesn't, then don't. But I think it's just about the intention of that specific set or rep or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely. The difference, that absolute strength where you need to push and getting up to those percentages on there. But again, the rest time and the recovery time is a little bit, it's different as well. So I got so deep into like the iron cardio route of the single rep complexes for a while, because about 18 months ago when I started this business, and mindset wise, I'm like, I can't follow just a structured plan. Like I need to do something. So it went more like intuitive, like every day, what are the weights that you're using and kind of what felt best for your body? And there's something to it. I think it definitely takes some time to build up to it, but using 24K, 28K, just consistently, over a longer period of time, it's like, there's definitely something to it.
Yeah. And then like using the weight or picking a weight that you're like, okay, I want to like master this weight. So I'm going to do this movement with this weight until this weight feels really light. And that's another thing that I like to teach my students is like, pick a weight that you want to feel lighter, and don't go up until it feels like the previous weight you were using. And show every bell love is what I kind of like to say, is like, show every bell love, because we're not,
I love that.
we don't have egos in this, and you'll never know unless you try with that weight. And so show every bell love, and if that feels lighter, then go up, and if that feels lighter, then go up. And if you reach a 24 kilo and that's like really working you, then like stay there for a while and until that feels light, and then you can go up, and then you've earned it. You know what I mean?
I love that. Show every bell love. That is such a beautiful mic drop right there. So, we used to do that with, for a while, like we had a get up board of like how heavy you can do with a get up, and which was good. But then it's like, I mean, what do people want to do? It's just like the guy, AJ, it's like, oh, I can do this one, so I'm going to try this one. And it's like, no, it's about technique. It's about, doing proper, form. So we put the rule in there, like you couldn't try on one up until you could do a double with the one underneath.
Okay.
And that just like kind of like forced that, all right, you need to be able to control this time under tension to be able to keep that arm, that's the stability. And because if you want to go for a 24, all right, well, with a 20, you better be able to do a double with it.
Right. Well, that's a good way to look at it. I never looked at it that way. I think doubles are a complete different ball game. And in my opinion, it's just, even though like you can take a double, you can take a snatch with a 16 kilo, but then you can take doubles with 2 16s, and then that's a complete different feeling, because now you have so many different factors. Like, okay, now I have 2 bells in my hand, and now I have to figure out my weight dispersion of like in between the hike position, and in the lockout too. So I guess I never thought about it that way, but I definitely think 2 kettlebells versus 1 is like a complete different ball game. So I never even looked at it like that, but that's a nice way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it made people really own the movement, in there, and then going up. And then the other rule we had is like, if you PR'd once, if you went up and it felt really light, no, you can't go up to the next one again. You don't get greedy, with it. Right. So yeah, I remember going back, Pavel had an old line about that, of like, when you're feeling that day, like just unusually strong, some of those days where you just feel that grip, he's like, that's when you try something for a double or a triple. And I thought about it, I was like, why a double or a triple? Why not like an absolute 1 rep max? It's like, well, you go for just single rep maxes all the time, you're eventually gonna either you're gonna hurt yourself, or you're gonna need to recover way much. It's like, you do something for a double or a triple, it's showing a lot more control with your technique and with your strength.
Agree. I think if you can do something with 1, you should be able to do at least 2 or 3. So I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So this is something I love doing with kettlebell coaches, is kind of like underrated, overrated. Like, are there specific, like, personal favorite movements that you love training more than others?
Sorry, I'm trying to put this light on so it's not so dark.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I really, like I said, I really love snatches. That stems from my barbell experience. I just always loved, like, something about snatching a barbell over my head just was really empowering me. I think an underrated move would be holds and walks. I think that teaches a lot of stability, and you need stability with strength. You can't be strong and not stable. I think that would be, if I had to say, underestimated or undertrained or whatnot. And my favorite move, one of my favorites aside from a snatch, I think would be an overhead squat. I just think that's like a true test of strength, stability, mobility, technique, everything. I think it's just like it looks so cool. Like, it's a small flex too. You know what I mean? And yeah, I really love the overhead squats.
Oh, you crazy mobility people. I'm telling you, it's freaking crazy. And it is an incredible move. It's such a powerful movement when especially with a kettlebell, like, just because you can't get that wide grip like a barbell that you can, like, from an overhead, like, you have to keep it more above the head. It's so different. I agree. I mean, the waiter, like the just walks, just those loaded carry walks and stuff like, I mean, Dan John's been preaching it for a million years on it, and it's still so prevalent, like just getting a bell or two in different motions, different positions. It just is one of the easiest things you can do for your posture and for your strength, that like anybody can do it, whether it's your first day in the gym or, you know, you're a seasoned veteran.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
one of those things.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's underestimated because I think it's a boring move and people don't want to be bored, right, in their workout. So when you tell somebody, oh, pick up the kettlebells and just hold them there for 30 seconds, they're like, that's it? I'm like, okay, just do it.
I know, right?
Okay, do it. And they're like, and then you get 30 seconds and they're like, oh, like, yeah, because it's not just about picking them up. It's about, is your posture good? Are you engaging your core, your glutes? Is your, is your body working as a unit in that moment? Are you able to engage the specific muscles that you're supposed to be? And it teaches, like, in my opinion, to kind of like slow it down, because everyone I've found has like wanted to just do everything fast. I just want to get it over with. And I'm like, we're not in a rush here. Like, there's no race, there's no rush.
Yeah.
Like, slow down, take your time, and learn what you're supposed to learn from that hold or from that walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We did this thing with Gray Cook at a seminar of like, you go overhead, and then when you can't go overhead anymore, you go to the rack position. When you can't go to the rack position anymore, you go to suitcase. When you can't do that anymore, you switch hands. So you can always do something, because there's one arm's working, one's resting. I remember I had a really cocky hockey team that I was working with that thought their just shit didn't stink, and they were just kind of acting up, and I was like, all right, like, we're going to teach a little bit of a lesson here. So they all grabbed the kettlebell and we just went in a circle, and for like 30 minutes, this is what they're doing. And it's like, you saw like how insanely challenging it is to just hold weight and just walk with weight from there. And it's like, it's a boring move, but if you want to get strong, like, get really, comfortable doing the boring movements over and over. Because I'm the same way. Like, snatching is, I think anybody who's into kettlebell training, like the snatch, it's just a badass move. It feels good. There's like that technique feeling to it as well. So I totally get into it. But like the things that really benefit the most, it's like the broccoli of kettlebell training. Yeah. Grab a couple of weights and just exactly, just hold with it. That's awesome. So, well, Nichole, this has been a blast having you on. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me today. And I love all the content that you're putting out and everything you're doing with your brand. So keep doing you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. I'm grateful to have had the chance to talk with you. I hope my story helps somebody in this world. I will continue to keep putting out the content that I think inspires them.
No doubt. Yeah. So if people do want to follow you, absorb some more of your content, what's the best place that they can go and check you out?
Instagram for sure, at kettlebellqueen_ at the very end of queen.
Awesome. All right, Nichole, thank you so much for talking to me today. Appreciate it. Listeners, go follow Nichole, check her out. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.